I know it's a bit obvious for me to say this out loud, but I guess a lot of men doesn't get through that stage when they have a child. Now, obviously, when I spoke to my co-worker who has, I don't know, they married or just knocked up at the age of 21 with her high school sweetheart, and after that they separated. Right, until now she's 21. She was 21, have the child, and she's 30 years old. And she told me the reason why she separated. And obviously, men does not mature even though we have a child. And that really strongly reflected upon of myself. Myself was going through the same phase where, when I had my daughter, and I wasn't matured, gone to that level. Men does not mature. Women matured the moment they have a child. And all I can say is, the fact is, even though I complain a lot about my separation, but little do I know the amount of mistake and learn and grow, it's still not in there. And you have to quick adapt the moment, And then last night, I was doing the hospital shift, and I watched SpongeBob, right? SpongeBob the show, where it really resembles what I went through. So obviously, they found a scallop, a baby scallop, and SpongeBob and Patrick is looking after the scallop. And when they look after the scallop, Patrick is making excuses after excuses, making false promises and making promises to look after, he will take turn to look after the scallop, right? The scallop baby. And SpongeBob is kept on saying, yes, okay, no problem, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then towards the end, Patrick's always make excuses. The only time that Patrick is willing to give a hand, if there's this real crazy, real serious, situation. And that just really reflected on how I was. Even though it's just a kid's show, but it just shows you how crazy, that show, like how reality true it is for most men. And even though I think is be proactive. I think we haven't gone to that stage where the mothers, or whether they have postpartum or overwork fatigue or whatever. And like I said, I didn't understand the full story how my co-worker left the high school sweetheart, and I looked at myself when I was working, and then I have the child with the baby mama at the time, and it made me realize how immature I was. And I guess, we don't see that from our parents, because our parents had us when we are way too young. And I guess, to be quick act upon it, it's impossible. So for me to say this out loud, it's crazy to know, because in life, there's stages in life, but when does men truly get matured? And I guess as a Western men, we get matured too late than the third world country men. And that being said, and what I see in myself now, it feels like an immaturity of my finance, and as well saving, because that's the environment that I grew up in the Western world. And that is a note for me to take on, where there's so many things I can improve on, but that was my journey that I will become. And in a way that working, everyone has their own trauma, but I'm not going to talk about now. I'll talk in the next video.